Well, let's get the thoughts now of the Brexit campaigner, Martin Howe, who's the leading expert on the EU constitution. Mr. Howe, what do you think this changes, this ruling from the ECJ?
Well, it doesn't change anything directly. What it says is that the United Kingdom has a legal right to withdraw the notification if we were to choose to exercise that. But in order for that to be exercised, we'd have to have a change of mind by the government. Doesn't seem likely. And we'd need parliamentary legislation as well.
You say it doesn't seem likely, but it seems now that everything is in play here at Westminster, that it's quite possible that Parliament might opt either for a referendum or to direct the government to revoke Article 50. In those circumstances, that could happen then. Well,
Parliament, or at least the House of Commons, can't, by a resolution, direct the government to revoke Article 50. The only route by which the House of Commons could ultimately prevail would be via a vote of no confidence in the government under the Fixed Term Parliaments Act, which would bring the whole government down.
But we've also got potentially the amendment from Dominic Grieve and potentially the amendments from Hilary Benn. Now, I know they're not going to be votes, but wouldn't those change the circumstances in as much as that would be Parliament taking control?
No, they wouldn't. The point is this: the House of Commons can pass resolutions, but except in special circumstances, they don't have the force of law. They can't legally direct the government in the government's exercise of its foreign relations powers. It's true they can have a political impact, but they cannot legally direct the government. So as long as the government...
I mean, is that a little bit tendentious? I mean, you're someone who, for a long time, have made the case for Brexit. Do you get the sense now that perhaps, because of all the difficulties, things may be slipping away from your cause?
No, I don't think so. I think what you have to appreciate is that leaving the European Union is now hard-coded into the law. And it seems to me that any alternative route would require both a change of mind by the government and indeed legislation. In other words, a full Act of Parliament to go through both houses. And that any such bill would undoubtedly be vigorously opposed.
Yeah, but we know that a majority of MPs individually thought Brexit was a bad idea, and so it could be reversed in that way, couldn't it?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, we had a referendum and a big majority, I think something like 5/6 of the House of Commons, voted for the bill to hand the decision to the British people. A commitment was made to respect the outcome. I think, and indeed, the political commitment that was given to respect the wishes of the British people came through in the bill to notify the withdrawal, where again there was a very big majority in the House of Commons. So I'm not convinced that the House of Commons is going to vote against the decision of the people that the House of Commons voted that the people should be given.
Yeah, but they could. I mean, there's nothing stopping either having another referendum or a majority in the House of Commons expressing their view. And it does appear that public opinion has moved quite a lot.
Well, I won't get into public opinion. I don't accept that because I think there are a lot of people who would be outraged by the prospect of another referendum asking them to re-vote again. And my suspicion is there'd be a bigger Leave majority than last time. But leaving that aside, in order to have a referendum, it's not a simple task. You need a bill to go all the way through Parliament, setting the wording of the questions, setting the campaign period, so on and so forth. It's not feasible before the 29th of March next year.
So would you advise people who agree with you, who want Brexit, MPs, that actually they should support this deal because it might be the only sort of Brexit they're going to get, and that would at least get Britain out on the 29th of March next year?
No, absolutely not. This deal is absolutely shockingly terrible. It is worse. What it does not give us the benefits of freedom of action that we should obtain by Brexit. It makes us a rule taker And worst of all, of course, it locks us in indefinitely. So this does not deliver Brexit. And in my view, members of Parliament be well advised to vote it down.
And what happens then?
And then the two possible courses of action: either the EU blinks and, despite what it's saying now, gives us a better deal, or we leave on WTO terms in March next year. And that is not this sort of ludicrous imagery of crashing out over a cliff edge. Most of our trade is done on WTO terms, and actually then...
Well, actually, that's not true, is it? I mean, with the majority of countries, we have trade agreements above and beyond WTO terms. I mean, I know Brexiteers say this, but it's just factually not true.
No, it is true. I mean, what you're talking about are plumbing-type deals.
Yeah, above and beyond WTO terms. So most of our trade is not done on WTO terms.
That is not so. The majority of our trade is done on WTO terms. And you're talking about mechanical deals like aircraft landing rights, which we have with lots of countries around the world, and we'll have with the European Union.
Well, not to mention 660 trade agreements through the European Union and our agreements with the European Union. I mean, it's just not the status quo that the majority of our trade is done on WTO terms. It's not true.
The 60 trade agreements with the European or through the European Union, most of them are very minor. The only major ones actually are Korea and Canada. Most of them very minor, with small ex-colonial territories and so forth. And
still not. All I'm saying is it's still not most of our trade. It may be WTO terms is great, but it is not true to say currently most of our trade is on WTO terms. Anyway, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Howe, for joining us. Let's hear now from Asa Bennett, the Telegraph's commissioning editor. You'd agree with me on that, wouldn't you?
About WTO, yes, it's the baseline for trade, and so much more is done with extra treaties on top. So
exactly.
I would say you were right on that.
Now, where do you think